Okay, so this video is about programming the Grunfos VFD pump. First thing you want to do is turn on the pump so that it has power and it has a green blinking light. Then I'm going to open up the PC Tools eProducts program, and then I'm going to plug in the Grunfos interface module with the USB port. And plug it into the plug in the Grunfos. And then I'm going to hit this yes, and it's going to search to hopefully hook this thing up. And as you can see, it's doing something. Looks like it's logging in, and there we are. And this is the Grunfos pump, and this is all of the data about this pump. And we have this blinking light here, which means we're talking to it, and there are no alarms. Okay. If there were alarms, they'd show up here, and when they show up, you can click on the alarm, and the alarm codes will show up here to tell you what the alarm is. Okay. In this job, we're using an external set point, which means we have a remote speed sensor and pressures transducer, and we're basically controlling everything about this pump from the PLC. Including displaying information on the PLC about the RPMs and the pressure and the speed. So yesterday we were on the phone all day, for a long time with Grunfos, and basically when the pump is running, it'll show the RPM here, and our external set point here number should match what our PLC says it is. And it didn't do that at first because we had to upload the firmware again. Apparently they didn't do it right the first time. That took care of the set point problem. Also, we had a problem with the set point because we had to change the cards, the Siemens analog cards, from their default of 0 to 10 volts, and we had to make them 4 to 20 milliamps, which took us a while to figure that out. And we basically went to the analog card and changed it to 4 to 20 milliamps, and then Dennis found out what the 20 milliamps, what the number is. It's a large number. So when we were trying to set up the percentage of the set point, 0 to 100%, the Siemens card has a range that goes up to, what is it, where did it go? 27,648. So at 4 milliamps it's 0, and at 20 milliamps it's 27,648. So we did the math and put the correct adjustments into the PLC so that it worked fine after that. And then we were talking to a guy named Marcelo from Kansas City that seemed to know this pump pretty good, and we were talking to him through Randy Walker in the Detroit office. I don't remember the name of the company, but we have his phone number, and we pretty much got it all set. So the first time we had a problem with our 0 to 100%, which we fixed in our PLC, and then the drive wasn't picking it up, so he did a reload of the firmware, which we found by going to Tools and hitting this update configuration files, which I don't want to do, but it basically takes you to another screen, and you hit enter a couple times and it reloaded, and after that the set points seemed to work just fine. But then we had a problem with the RPM, and everything we've done on here interfacing to it was 4 to 20, but the guy from Marcelo said that signal is 0 to 10 volts. So we had to change the analog card to accept 0 to 10 volts from the RPM input from the grunfos. However, the way the Siemens cards are, you have to have the first two analog have to match and the second two have to match, and so we had to move the wires around because we had 4 to 20 on the first 2, 3, and we needed 0 to 10 on the other one. So Dennis rewired it so that we could get the 4 to 10 or the 0 to 10 volts for the RPM, and still had 4 to 20 milliamps for the interfacing to the analog cards for the other settings. So basically we are using this monitor. This is the monitor, and we can see what the drive's doing, the frequency, the RPM, the set point, all that stuff, and whether there's a fault. And this is blinking, which means we're talking. Now when we go to like custom configuration, and there's these different selections here, I'm going to run down them because he changed some of these for this job, and I just want you to see what they are. So converter, we had constant curve was a big thing, and for the inputs and outputs, we had these sensors. You get the sensor here. Neither of these should be used. The analog is speed, which was secretly 0 to 10 volts, but we didn't know that. It took them a while to figure that out. External set point, 4 to 20 milliamps, stuff like that. And then function, deactivated, okay, set point, normal, these were all zeroed out. I see this is back to 25 again, but whatever. It normal, set point 100%, you know, things like that have to be set up. Sometimes they are set up correctly, sometimes they aren't. External set point influence deactivated. I'm not exactly sure why, but okay. So we did the custom configuration, standard configuration. This is the model. This is the software version, and that we uploaded, I think, when we hit tools, update configuration, but I'm not going to do any of that now because I don't want to monkey around with it. So basically it was just monitor and custom configuration. We didn't do anything with the data log or really the standard configuration. It's mostly the custom configuration and the monitor. Anyhow, when you're changing something like in the custom configuration, anytime you change a value, you have to come down and hit the send. The send is what really writes this stuff to the motor so that it remembers it. So they don't have like a enter or a reset or anything. If you just hit send anytime you change anything in here, and as long as this light's blinking, you know you're talking to it. If there's an alarm, it'll show up here, or the alarm will show up here, and when you click on it, right, it puts all the faults for that alarm up, and then you can exactly see what kind of problem it has, which is pretty cool. And then you can save this file. You hit save log file, and it goes through this routine here, and it saves it in some obscure area, but it's available. It would be program data, grunfos, PC tools, blah blah blah, user data, my files, and then so you have a copy of this so we can call it up if we need to. and the file name is basically today's date. So you hit OK and it saved it again. Let's run through. Nothing there, nothing there. Back to the monitor. Trend curve, nope, nothing. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up.